Start. Dear Commissioner Kos, dear Mrs. Tsikhanouskaya, leader of the Belarusian Democratic Forces, Mr. Casas-Zamora, Secretary General of International IDEA, members of the European Parliament, friends from Belarus and friends of Belarus, distinguished guests. It's a great privilege for me to be hosting this high-level conference entitled Belarus, Building Foundations for Democratic Change. It has been jointly organized by the European Parliament and the International IDEA with the support of the European Commission and the European External Action Service. The title itself says that the conference is to be devoted to one of the most complex challenges facing Europe today, preparing the democratic future of Belarus. Colleagues, this conference is not about abstract ideas, it's about very specific policy choices, the institutional choices and the readiness for transition. More than 5 years ago, after rigged 2020 elections, Belarus remains a repressed country, yet the work on the democratic process continue. This type of work is now more structured, professional and forward-looking. We focus on rebuilding democratic institutions, bringing back justice and rebuilding public trust. The European Parliament and the European Union definitely stand with the Belarusian people and their democratic aspirations. We provide political recognition of democratic forces, financial support to civil society and free media. We have produced targeted sanctions and we always engage with the democratic structures in exile. Thus, we make it clear that legitimacy lies with the people. This long-term support is not only symbolic, it's a strategic investment in democratic transition of Belarus and in the stability and security of Europe. The situation within Belarus remains bleak. Systemic repressions, destruction of independent voices, and forced exiles. The recent waves of layoffs do not represent a step towards justice or reconciliation because they are selective, because they show that there is no real willingness to change. Just to tell you that as they happen, more and more people are being arrested. The country itself unfortunately gets closer and closer to Russia politically and in military sense. That's why constitutional reform, the independence of judiciary, accountability of prosecutor's office and fight with corruption, they all represent urgent priorities. Today's conference has as its theme those issues. First, we will talk about transitional justice, reform of the prosecutor's office, ethical governance, and effective oversight, because they represent the pillars of credible and durable democracy. At this stage, I would like to express my gratitude for the democratic community and civil society of Belarus, who, even as state institutions are being dismantled, contribute to the initiative organized by International IDEA, and they don't cease to develop the legal and constitutional framework for a future democratic state using their international expertise. The history of Europe shows that success in transition depends on preparation, accountability, and inclusion, and these are the main topics of today's conference. I am confident that we will reach the main objectives, which include strengthening networking, better policy tools, better understanding of what democratic transition in Belarus requires, legally, institutionally, and politically. The European Parliament and its delegation for relations with Belarus will continue to serve as a platform for this type of work and as a strong partner preparing the day when Belarus can fully reclaim its democracy, sovereignty, and the rule of law. With this, I would like to thank you for your engagement, and I wish you a productive and forward-looking discussions. Now, to officially open the conference, I would like to officially welcome our esteemed guests. I was supposed to welcome Mr. Stefanuta, Vice President of the European Parliament, and indeed he will join us. He will speak at the conference, but at a later stage. So we are still waiting for the Vice President. And now I would like to welcome Marta, Commissioner for Enlargement. Madam Commissioner, the work of DG EEAS in supporting Belarusian civil society has been instrumental. The Directorate General provides vital support to independent actors, human rights defenders, and democratic initiatives, especially at the time when it's needed most. We really appreciate your close cooperation and your continued personal engagement in advancing this important work. Madam Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Dear Sviatlana, dear Madam Gosiewska, Mr. Casas-Zamora, dear members of the European Parliament, dear guests, a special welcome to many Belarusians in the room today. Thank you for your staying true to this cause despite immense personal risk. You are an inspiration for everyone who believes in freedom and democracy, and we do. Since 2020, Belarus has fallen deeper and deeper into authoritarianism, and opposition parties have been banned, their leaders imprisoned or forced into exile. Civil society has been dismantled. No real independent alternative exists in Belarus today. Over the last number of months, we have witnessed with great relief several waves of political prisoners released from Belarus. The release of your husband, dear Sviatlana, seemed almost like a miracle at that time, wishing you and your family all the best. But the situation remains far from resolved. More than 1,200 political prisoners continue to endure harsh conditions in Belarus prisons. Each one of them has a family that still wait for their return, or often is even for any news of their loved ones. And each week brings more politically motivated sentences, sometimes for nothing more than a social media post. Since 2020, responding to the needs of Belarusian political prisoners and victims of repression has been at the core of EU support to the people of Belarus. We have provided essential help to civic activists, human rights defenders, and ordinary people who dared to speak out. We have also provided legal and medical support to more than 7,500 people, scholarships for over 3,500 students, and supported thousands of businesses in exile. I'm proud to announce today that the EU will provide an additional €30 million in assistance to the people of Belarus in the coming year. This will take our total support since the stolen election to over €200 million. The support will empower Belarusian human rights defenders to assist victims of repression and enable journalists and civil society continue pushing for democratic change. We are also at the forefront in supporting political prisoners after their release, in helping them rebuild their lives. We have some of them here with us today. They have an important role to play in shaping a future democratic Belarus. Many of you here today have been working on putting in place structures that will allow you to be ready for democratic change on one day, and I hope that they will come very soon. The work you have carried out through the Pathways to a Democratic Belarus project has shown that another Belarus is possible, one where human dignity is respected and citizens have a voice in the decisions that shape their lives, one where people can trust their government is working in the public interest and where they don't have to live in fear of politically motivated detention. We will continue to apply pressure against the regime while standing firmly with the people of Belarus. And we continue to push for accountability for the crimes committed by the regime. This is why we support the International Accountability Platform for Belarus. Dear Belarusian friends and partners, the fight for freedom and democracy is a fight many Europeans have won before you, and I know you will win it too. But it is also a fight every one of us needs to keep fighting every day, also inside your union, because our open societies are under attack. And this is something we share. We will not step back from supporting your democratic aspirations, just as you have not stepped back from defending them under the most difficult conditions. You can count on the European Union, you can count on my personal engagement to be with you for a long term, for a long time, as we will have a democratic Belarus. So please hold on. We count on you as you can count on us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Commissioner. Thank you for your intervention. This gives us hope. Hope for free Belarus. And now I'm very pleased to welcome in our European Parliament Ms. Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, who is the leader of the Belarusian Democratic Forces. Your personal engagement and unwavering commitment to freedom, dignity and democratic change continue to inspire not only your citizens, but also all those who support the cause of a free and democratic Belarus. We very much look forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours.
So, dear Commissioner Kos, dear Marta, dear Małgorzata, dear Dr. Kevin Casas-Zamora, my dear Belarusians, I'm very excited to be here at this high-level conference and to see so many friends and colleagues and champions of democracy in one room. Despite a serious agenda today, I really feel like meeting a family before Christmas. And I want this event, just like Christmas Eve, to bring Belarusian people hope for a better future. I'm grateful to all who made this conference possible. It is the European Parliament's delegation for relations with Belarus, led by our dear Małgorzata Hosiewska, our tireless advocate in the European Parliament. Just recently, we campaigned together for awarding Andrzej Poczobut with the Sakharov Prize, and I'm grateful to delegation, special rapporteurs, and all friends like Andrzej Halicki, Mariusz Kamiński, Sergei Lagodinsky, Danius Žalimas, who supported this decision. I also want to thank Vice Presidents Eva Kopacz and Nikolai Stefanuca for Parliament's strong and principled position. You clearly distinguish between the Belarusian people and Lukashenko's regime and between Belarus and Russia. And you understand so well that without free and democratic Belarus, there will be no safe and peaceful Europe. Last year, Belarusian Democratic Forces signed a memorandum with Roberta Metsola, where we agreed that our common mission is to bring Belarus to Europe. And I'm sure that one day, Belarusian delegation elected in free and fair elections will have its own seats in this chamber. Also, I want to personally thank Commissioner Kos, who became my personal friend and inspiration for many Belarusians. Your energy, Marta, inspires many, and we always say that we need more. We need European Union to be proactive, not reactive, and I think that you are embodiment of this approach. In recent years, the European Commission and DG EEAS team became our main partners and allies. And our cooperation is not just symbolic, it is very practical. Last month, we held a senior official meeting with the Commission and all member states to discuss needs for our media, our human rights defenders, cultural and educational initiatives. And as we expect more releases of political prisoners soon, we hope for Commission's continued support for our human rights defenders in the future. With the help of the European Union, we continue building strong democratic institutions, trusted and supported by people that represent alternatives to Lukashenko regime. The Commission clearly understands that supporting our movement is also investment into our security. The stronger Belarusian society, the weaker is Lukashenko and Putin's presence in Belarus. I want to thank the European External Action Service and to the High Representative Kaja Kallas, who will join us later today. Her strong stance for Ukraine, Moldova, for Belarus shows that Europe will never be on the sidelines anymore. The European Union must engage, involve and interfere, and we must win. Yes, back in 2020, we all were not prepared for democratic revolution. Neither European Union, not Russia, not the regime. Maybe only Belarusians were, but it wasn't enough at that moment. I remember my first meetings here in Brussels, and I felt cautiousness from our partners. Or maybe, we shouldn't interfere into Belarusian internal politics, let not tease Russia, all these messages. And Belarus was still largely seen as part of the Russian sphere of influence. But since then, I'm sure it has changed forever. The European Union is not just watching anymore, it is fighting for itself and for neighborhood. This is what the European Union did in Moldova, and it won despite the massive Russian obstruction, and I'm sure that it will win in Belarus too. The European Union must be a player to guard its own interests. Leaving Belarus one-to-one with Russia means giving space for Russia's aggression, provocations and hostility, and vice versa. A democratic, independent European Belarus means stability and safer eastern flank. Therefore, we strongly advocate that at the ongoing peace talks on Ukraine, the European Union must be presented, because it's not only about Ukraine, but the entire European Union's neighborhood. The peace agreement will define the future of Belarus, Moldova and Caucasus too. But regardless of the direction these peace talks might go, Belarus will remain Europe. And it is the European Union who will play the biggest role in Belarus in the future. I am confident that being at the table, the European Union will speak on our behalf too, and say that Russia must leave not only Ukraine, but also Belarus with its troops and nuclear weapons. And let us decide our future ourselves. We must be ready for this new window of opportunities, and we must prepare for post-Lukashenko Belarus already now. This window, when it opens, might be very short and very narrow. That is why a few years ago we started an important work to develop a vision of new Belarus, post-Lukashenko Belarus. And here let me warmly greet Kevin Casas-Zamora and International IDEA that became our main partner in this uneasy but very necessary task. During the last years, we gathered the best Belarusian and foreign experts that had similar experiences of reforms in their countries, and we want to learn not only from their successes, but also from their mistakes. From Poland and Lithuania, Estonia and Finland, Ukraine and Moldova. For example, Yuri Barabash, who was recently appointed a judge of the Constitutional Court of Ukraine, worked on this project from the shelter in Ukraine under Russian bombings. And here I want to praise the work of my advisor, Anatoly Betka, actually a member of the last democratic parliament of Belarus. He came up with the whole idea of developing a new constitution and draft laws and gathered such a brilliant team of experts. And this is already the second presentation of this package. The previous one took place last year. And my special thanks go to Danius Žalimas and Michal Kobosko for helping to organize it. The idea behind the new legislation is simple: to stabilize democracy, to dismantle corruption, relaunch a justice system that serves people but not the government, and bring Belarus closer to Europe, to make sure that dictatorship will never repeat in Belarus. We should not only dream about the future. Before building a house, we must first design it and create the blueprints. Today's event is about exactly that, about Belarusian house in the European neighborhood. This is what we call the positive alternative, and it is part of our campaign, European Roadmap for Belarus. Very often, people don't believe that democratic changes in Belarus is possible or that the European Union will accept us at all. We must show that it is possible, and we show step by step what has to be done. We know that the credit of trust for a new government will be very limited, and reforms will need to be carried very quickly. Today, Lukashenko's laws are adapted to Russia's norms or are simply copied from the Russian ones. But Belarus belongs to Europe, and our legislative tradition goes back hundreds of years to the Statute of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. And we are now not building something from zero, we just returning to our roots. We drafted all these laws in accordance with the Copenhagen criteria to make our legislation fit the European Union norms. This will make the process of the Euro integration quicker. The positive alternative is also the answer to our need to work with Belarusians inside Belarus in a situation of total control and ongoing repression. When we first presented the draft law on lustration, it became a bestseller among Lukashenko's officials. Of course, it's about their future. And before the draft, the regime could speculate and intimidate officials with the prospect of change of power. With this publication, we reduced officials' fear of change and deepened the split within the elites. And finally, there is yet another important aspect of our legislative work. By drafting laws, we are learning to identify what matters most, to find political compromises, to involve Belarusians in building our common house. That is why all prepared drafts are discussed in the Coordination Council, our proto-parliament. And I hope this work will continue after new elections of Coordination Council in May. I really do believe that more people participate in this process today, the faster and more effectively the reforms will take place tomorrow. So, dear friends, we must fight for change today, but also prepare for the future. We must remember that all dictatorships collapse, always. And usually they collapse when nobody expected. So what matters is what comes next. And that depends on the society and our readiness to act at the right moment. We are not just observers of the situation, we are all participants of historic events for the region and for the whole of Europe. And I ask all of us not to lose this chance. And of course, let's stand for Ukraine, for Belarus, and for Europe. Thank you. May I give one more technical issue? We are really grateful for interpretation today, thanks to the European Union, but I have to say to our Belarusian participants that the translation from and to only Belarusian language. There is no Russian interpretation today. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo, Sviatlana, za...
Thank you, Sviatlana, for your speech. And at this stage, I would like to welcome Mr. Casas-Zamora, who is the an expert from the International IDEA. International IDEA internationally is regarded as a source of expert information, the source of supporting democratic processes and across the world. We are really grateful for the outstanding contribution of your organization in the organization of this conference. So my pleasure is now to give you the floor.
Thank you. Excellencies, colleagues, distinguished guests, dear partners and friends. On behalf of International IDEA, let me begin by thanking you all for being here to share in the important conversations that will take place in this room, and for offering your diverse perspectives, experiences, and ideas. Your contributions will help to build the basis for structured, strategic, and well-prepared future democratic changes in Belarus. This conference stands as a key opportunity this year for Belarusian democratic actors, EU institutions, and the expert community to reflect on the path forward. The event offers a unique platform for dialogue, bringing diverse voices together at a time when further high-level engagement on Belarus is needed. Taking place just ahead of International Human Rights Day on the 10th of December, it serves as a timely reminder of the importance of solidarity and continued commitment to democracy and human rights in Belarus. We are thus immensely grateful to the European Parliament and the Delegation for Relations with Belarus, led by Chairwoman Malgorzata Gosiewska, for hosting this important event here in the Parliament. Similarly, we are grateful to the European Commission and the European External Action Service, who supported in the preparation of this event, and especially to the High Representative and Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas, who will join us later today, and the Commissioner for EU Enlargement and Eastern Neighborhood, Marta. Your presence proves that Belarus remains high on the EU agenda. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, the leader of the democratic Belarus, whose fearless leadership and unwavering commitment play a central role in shaping an inclusive and democratic vision for her country. I am grateful to have had the honor of her presence at several of our events over the past years, most recently at the 2025 Belarus Women's Empowerment and Democracy Forum in Stockholm in June, where we discussed issues related to gender equality and the importance of ensuring equal opportunities for all those working towards a free and inclusive Belarus. Sviatlana, you're very kind with your words. It's been a privilege for IDEA to be part of this effort. And you see, these are the people whose cause our work tries to advance. Those who do more than pay lip service to democracy, and that truly, truly believe in it. So thank you for that opportunity, Sviatlana. Let me say just a few more words on the context for this event. As we all know, Belarusians both inside the country and in exile face a deliberate negation of their human rights. The judiciary has been stripped of its independence, civil society has been dismantled, free media has been eliminated. Exiled Belarusians continue to endure politically choreographed trials in absentia, digital surveillance and intimidations of their families. There are no remaining domestic avenues for justice or protection under the law. The regime's strategic use of disinformation and anti-extremism narratives has eroded social trust and isolated exiled voices. Meanwhile, we have witnessed an alleged opening of the regime in response to the recent U.S. diplomatic initiative, including the release of a limited number of political prisoners. Of course, we are all happy to see these people reunite with their loved ones. At the same time, this is a symptom of an increasingly transactional global environment, one which encourages authoritarian regimes to fabricate bargaining chips out of occupied territory, raw materials, transport corridors, and even the health and freedom of individuals. And in this challenging environment, the EU now stands with a few allies to defend the rules-based order, human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. So this is the context in which we convene this conference. Today's event is the fifth, and for now the last, in a series of events held over the past 2 years to reflect the reform package that has been developed by Belarusian democratic actors and the international community with our support. These legislative frameworks outline an institutional governance architecture for a democratic Belarus, including blueprints on a human rights protection mechanism, transitional justice and lustration laws, a prosecutor's service, an ethics and anti-corruption committee, a control chamber, an audit mechanism, all important pieces of democratic governance. We are grateful to the European Commission for enabling us to support this consensus-building process on the future democratic architecture and pathways for the transformation of Belarus. I look forward to further exchange of ideas on these blueprints. We hope that these collective efforts will be sustained and expanded, with the EU continuing to play a vital role in supporting the democratic actors and people of Belarus in their courageous struggle for democracy. Those are the people that we strive to support. People who are active on the front lines of democracy. They deserve our support. But let's be clear. This work matters not just for their sake, but for ours. Over the past 2 decades, all over the world, the erosion of democracy and the increase in conflict and insecurity have been parallel processes. Nowhere is this connection clearer than on this continent, which is now seeing the biggest land war in 80 years, something which would have never happened if Russia were a democracy. When we join the struggle for democracy in Belarus and globally, when we lend our voice and our resources to this cause, we reaffirm our belief in a peaceful future. A future that is not just peaceful and democratic, but a future that is peaceful because it is democratic. Finally, I want to reiterate that this event would not be possible without the energy, the commitment, the work of many of you in this room, including my own long-suffering colleagues at International IDEA. Thank you all. I take this gathering as a powerful sign of your commitment to a democratic future for Belarus, a commitment that has never been more important than now. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo, panie Thank you very much, dear Secretary General. Thank you very much indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's high time we started our first panel discussion. The topic of the first panel is promoting democratic transformation and human rights in Belarus. This panel will examine the breakdown of effective human rights protection mechanisms in Belarus and assess how democratic transition could restore institutional guarantees. The discussion will highlight how civil society and international actors currently help offset the absence of domestic accountability and will consider pathways for building credible and sustainable systems to safeguard fundamental rights in a post-authoritarian setting. This panel will be moderated by Mr. Sergei Lagodinsky, the chair of the delegation to the Euronest Parliamentary Assembly, also a member of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, member of the Delegation for Relations with Belarus, member of the European Parliament. But before passing the floor to Mr. Lagodinsky, please let me inform you that this session will not be web-streamed. In order to ensure an open and candid exchange of views, we kindly ask all journalists to leave the room. That was what the Belarusian colleagues have asked us to do. For reasons of the personal security of our speakers, we kindly ask all participants to refrain from taking photographs or making any recordings during the discussion. And now, Mr. Lagodinsky, the floor is yours. Please be kind, the journalists and anyone I have previously mentioned, to leave the meeting room now.
Okej. Czyli... Tak, ale musicie.
Thank you so much. Real pleasure.
Zapraszam wszystkich panelistów do stołu prezydium.
Please, all the speakers, could you come up here to the table?